guess when I was a little girl, I loved two things, movies and fashion. And I couldn't draw that well. So I thought, and I still can't. And so I thought I couldn't really become a designer because I dreamed of being a designer. And then I studied film. And then I decided at that time that film you have to work with a team, and I wasn't really, maybe my ego was big at that time, and I remember in film class everybody wanted to be a director. Nobody wanted to do anything but direct. Anyway, so I went from like film to still photography, like reportage photography, and then I moved, I grew up outside Philadelphia. I moved to New York. I was living with a boyfriend, and he was a photographer. And it got to a certain point where I didn't want to pick up my camera. I'd pick up my camera, I'd feel sick to my stomach. We went out to dinner one night, and I said, I don't want to do this anymore, but I don't know what I want to do. And it was like the first time I was really, had no idea what I wanted to do. And he just looked at me and goes, well, why don't you do something obvious? And I was like what? And he said, like design. And then I thought, okay, I had this thing in my head because I don't draw well. But like a light bulb went off, and I went to Parsons and FIT for 9 months. And I decided if I stayed there any longer, I would lose all interest in design because it was very regimented, very like 7th Avenue oriented. And I quit, and I decided that I would just put together a collection, and when I was ready, I'd show it. And I had no sense of like 6 months in advance or how you price things or anything. I just put together a collection. I had a girlfriend that worked for the airlines, and I would send her to, she'd go to Italy, and I'd send her out to get fabrics for me. She'd bring them back in her suitcase, and she was perfect size, like you. And so I put her in a sample, send her to the stores, and because I priced things totally wrong, they sold immediately. Because I don't know what I was doing. I was like giving it away practically. And that's how I got started in fashion. I kind of grew up in fashion because I showed my first collection for spring in March. Nobody does that. It was something I always wanted to do. I was always dressing people, and people were always asking me to help them go shopping and things like that. It was just something natural instinct. And at that time, I was changing my look all the time. You know, just always experimenting like everybody. You know, you go through all these things, and then finally, probably, my look started when I was a designer, because I felt that the clothes I was wearing was in competition with what I was creating. So I thought, you know, Givenchy wears a white lab coat, I'll just dress in black. Because I felt if I was in black, then I could create like freely. I don't feel I'm hiding anything, but maybe, you know, my look makes it so people don't immediately want to come close. You know, sunglasses put a distance, and my hair, it's not you're gonna, you know, I like people to keep a bit of a distance. I'm a very warm, open person, but I'm very private, and there has to be some kind of boundaries. People that come to my place, if they're in my place and they're close to me, they see my eyes. Why did I move? Because in the end of 1990, New York was really a disaster. It was like from '87, there was a whole AIDS epidemic. I lived in the West Village. which was pretty gay. And it felt like 90% of my neighborhood was sick or dying. It was really depressing. And they let all the mental patients out from the hospitals, and they were just living in the street. And there was a lot of crack and drugs and crime, and the police were afraid of these criminals. And I didn't really have any strategy, and it was kind of difficult because my life was in New York and my business was I was a designer for 13 years. And but I just thought, I need to live someplace where I can walk on the street and feel comfortable, and I'm not stepping over all these homeless people, which in the beginning you have compassion, but then after a while it's like, you know, I have some rights too. And it just was really unpleasant. And so I didn't have, like, Women's Wear Daily called me to say, oh, we hear you're moving to Paris, and what are you going to do? And I had absolutely no strategy. So I said, oh, I'm setting up my business because I always had a lot of appreciation from there, blah, blah, blah. It wasn't really true because I had absolutely no plan. I was supposed to have a job as a costume designer on a film. And in the end I did, with this director, Amos Gatai. But that was a really weird story. But it was really difficult. The first 3 years in Paris were, you know, one thing is like leaving your country and leaving your business, which is your life and everything, and you start up somewhere where I knew one person, and the French, well, obviously I love it here because I'm here for 20 years, but they're not embracing foreigners. It's the opposite of New York, you know? New York, you're foreign, they love it, it's exotic, and they want to know more, and they're curious. Here it's like, you know, they try and scare you away, and if they don't succeed in scaring you away for, if you manage to stay for like 3 years, then they can't scare you away, then they accept you. Well, the black started when I was a designer. And then the hair kind of evolved, you know, just sort of evolved. I always liked Marie Antoinette, but I like Anna Mignani too, which I'm not exactly looking anything like Anna Mignani. But there was something, you have all these mixed kind of images, and from films like Pasolini, and there are all kinds of references, but nothing specific. And it just developed over the years. And I think when you find your look, because like I said, as a teenager, and yeah, mostly teenager, I was changing my look all the time. All the time. Crazy makeup and, you know, just different looks. But then when you sort of find your look, why do you have to change it? I like strong, sensual women, like Charlotte Rampling, you know? Someone who's like very much a woman, but very strong also. Anna Mignani felt like that to me, somebody super passionate, but strong. I don't like weak people. Luxury to me is enjoying being alone. And I know it's a luxury because I know how many people suffer from, you know, needing people around them all the time. And I'm the opposite. I love people, but I really need to be alone. And I've been married 4 times, but I know it's not for me. I never wanted to get married, but I did get married. But I'm not, even though my sign is Libra, balance, which is supposed to be about partnerships and couple, I'm such a loner. So no, I don't suffer from loneliness. I enjoy it. Maybe that's why also, but I have friends, you know. I have close friends. The love of my life was my first husband, who I loved with abandon. Funnily enough, he was a dentist. We met when I got my teeth cleaned. He died at a young age. He died when he was 31. And something, even though there were other people after, a barrier came. Like, you know, when you fall in love for the first time with abandon, do you think it's going to last forever? And when you realize nothing lasts forever, it lasts as long as it lasts, it changes things. So a lot of people think that's why I wear black. I used to have, before my husband died, I used to have this fantasy that it would be really a sexy thing to be a young widow. And I saw like Jean Moreau and The Bride Wore Black and all these, you know, Anna Mignani in these films and stuff, Bellissimo and things. But then, of course, when it happens, it's another story. There's nothing romantic about it, you know. And so I, after 4 husbands, I realized I am much better alone. Creativity is an instinct, I think. Right now is probably one of the most difficult times because, you know, probably for the past 2 decades, what's taking over creativity is corporations. It's like big brands everywhere, and it makes it really difficult. You have luxury on one side, and you have fast fashion on the other. The secret, Rick Owens is a perfect example, because he knows how to balance creativity and also be commercial. And that's not easy, but that's what you have to do. Even like when I was a designer for 13 years, I wanted my clothes to sell themselves. I didn't want to have to go out to Studio 54, you know, like Halston, Calvin Klein and all those people, and socialize and network. I just wanted to make beautiful clothes to make women feel beautiful. And it wasn't important to me to be, you know, selling myself all the time. Yes, I'm happy, I have to say. Happiness for me is doing what I enjoy to do and somehow living off of it without, you know, great compromises. Happiness is, to me, happiness is independence and liberty. Just being able to be yourself, and I don't have huge, it's got nothing to do with money. It's got to do with freedom, and I'm glad I don't spend most of my life doing things I don't want to do, just so like in, you know, 20 years I can retire. That's why, you know, there's all these manifs going on in Paris right now, because they're trying to extend the age of retirement to 63, which in most countries it's that age or even older. Because it's people that do things just to live, and it's not what they really want to do. So my luxury is that I do what I enjoy to do, and I manage to live on it. I could live better. What rules my life is freedom, and being able to do what I want to do. And like right now, by putting together my fashion film festival, I always make little lo-fi films. It's more about intimate content. It's not high production value. In 2005, Mark Ely was launching a menswear collection, and he asked me to make a road movie of the Gumball Rally. It's this car race that goes 3,000 miles in 6 days. Different places. When I was on it, it was from Trafalgar Square to Monte Carlo. And I made this film, it was like 18 minutes, and I showed it to my collaborator in Los Angeles. And he asked me if I wanted to screen it in LA. And I said, yeah, why not? And the next day, my contributor on my blog from Mexico City, out of the blue, sent me a film. It was a fashion film, and I liked it. So I posted it on my site, and I thought, why not make a fashion film festival? Because I'd wanted to do it much earlier, but there really wasn't the material. And it was crazy what we did, because from May to the first week in August, we put the whole thing together. I could never do that again. And I thought, let's do it in LA, because LA's got nothing to do with fashion. And Paris has everything to do with fashion, also film. But LA's film, Paris fashion, so let's give them something first. And that's how it started. And it wasn't called Asvav, it was called You Wear It Well. And I did it with my collaborator for 2 years, until I realized I was doing all the work and he was doing nothing, being very LA style. And I thought, okay, this is enough. And I met David Herman, who works with me in development and partnerships. He read an article about me in my festival in a magazine, and he contacted me through my blog and asked me if I'd be interested in turning my festival, which really wasn't a real festival, it was an exaggeration to call it a festival. It was a one-day curated program, like 6 hours of films. And he said, would you be interested in screening your films at the Jeu de Paume, the Contemporary Museum in Paris, and making it into a 3-day event? And so we met, and that's how he helped take it to another step. But I'm the founder and the director, and I've been doing it years before him. But he really helped push it another step, and continues.